Thank you, Congressman Poshard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that very kind introduction. I appreciate it. Joe and I have been to Montgomery and Macoupin counties in this area several times, and have always been greeted with the great kindness and courtesy of the people who live here. And we're very, very thankful for that. My wife is sitting over here with our great State Central Committee woman, Vivian Robinson. Honey, stand up, stand up. My wife, Joe, State Central Committee woman, Vivian Robinson. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, thank you, and all of the county chairs and members of the Democrat Party organizations. I very much appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I'm 80 years old this month, so this is probably my last go-around in terms of trying to get out across the state and speak to people. But I have a message, and I want to share it with you. You shall know the truth. And the truth, can you hand that to me, pal? Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. That's what the good book says. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Freedom and truth are inseparable. We cannot be free without truth being the guiding principle of our life, of our nation, of our democracy. Lies lead to slavery. Lies destroy freedom. The founding document of our country, put together by our forefathers, desperate to escape the bondage of the King of England, came to these shores to declare, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They did not tell us that these liberties belong to the state, because if the state endows them, then Donald Trump and his ilk can take them away at will. And so they said, endowed by their Creator. They didn't say, we hold these lies to be self-evident, because they knew that lies could never lead to life, could never lead to liberty, could never lead to the pursuit of happiness, could never lead to democracy. Lies can only lead to the unjust edicts of kings and the slavery of dictators. In this last campaign and since, you have witnessed the eternal struggle between lies and truth. One man whose lies embrace the desire to be a dictator, to be like Putin, sworn to the destruction of democracy and to the destruction of this nation. One man and one party who would sell you out to the slavery of dictatorial power, while the blood of hundreds of thousands of young men and women who died to defend freedom in its hour of maximum danger cries out from graves surrounding the globe. How can you do this to us, you coward, sworn to be a dictator on day one? One man whose lies sought to overturn through insurrection the will of the people in electing Joe Biden as president of these United States. The lie which propelled him to office, that the 2020 election was a fraud, despite the fact that he filed 60 lawsuits claiming fraud and lost all 60, some before judges that he himself appointed. 3 Republican governors performing recounts and found more votes for Biden than for Trump in the recounts. An Attorney General's investigation from Bill Barr, his sycophant, found no fraud. Republican secretaries of state, the election authorities in their states, finding no fraud and refusing to be coerced into lying on his behalf. The January 6 riots of insurrection in which people were killed, in which Vice President Pence was threatened to be hanged by the mob. And every one of these insurrectionists, led off by Donald Trump, who referred to them as patriots of America. 75% of the witnesses before the January 6th committee were Republicans who told of Trump's guilt and incompetence. The second lie that assured him victory because the American people fell for the lie was that the 34 felony counts of conviction for fraudulently using campaign funds to pay off a porn star was fixed. He said it was set up by the Democrats. Have we forgotten? Have we forgotten what the American system of jurisprudence requires? If you are indicted by a grand jury, there is a pool of potential jurors to be interviewed to sit in judgment of the facts in your guilt or innocence. And the prosecution and the defense get to interview one potential juror after another until both sides agree on 12 people that they believe could make a reasonable judgment of the facts. If either side, the prosecution or the defense, does not agree on that potential juror, that person is not considered. Donald Trump and his lawyers had to agree on every single juror that sat on that jury, all 12 of them. They took days to decide on 12 people. And after days of testimony, the jury came back and unanimously found him guilty, not on 1 count, not on 10 counts, not on 20 counts, but 34 felonious accounts from people that he and his lawyers absolutely put on the jury. Don't fall for the lies. They went right out on the sidewalk and proclaimed that this was a setup by the Democrats, that it was all fraud. Any one juror could have voted no, and he would have been found not guilty, but they were all unanimous. But he got away with a lie, and that speaks volumes about the American people's failure to believe the truth. One man whose lies told us to drink bleach during the COVID crisis. One man whose lies will do away with Obamacare and has already cut the funding severely so that 42 million Americans will find their premiums skyrocketing, with millions losing the only health insurance they can get because they can no longer afford it. One man whose lies have convinced even the poorest among us to proudly wear those MAGA hats while he borrows another $3 trillion in their children's name and gives it to his billionaire buddies, selling us down into slavery of more debt than we can ever hope to repay. One man whose lies have convinced, even in light of floods and fires and storms that are ravaging our planet, that climate change is a hoax. One man whose lies have convinced half of this country that it's okay to demean your neighbor and treat them as your enemy. that it's okay to hate people because of their race, their religion, their ethnicity, or their sexual orientation. That it's okay to do away with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, destroying the social safety net which protects our most vulnerable citizens. Here are their plans, and it's all articulated in Project 2025, which Trump disavowed any knowledge of during the 24 campaign. Two things. First, the Heritage Foundation, the radical right-wing organization that wrote Project 2025, has promoted for years the unitary executive theory. This theory says that the president has sole authority over the executive branch and every employee in it. So the president doesn't have to follow the laws. He can administer through executive orders to run the government. And through these executive orders, he can reduce the federal agencies to as low a number of people as possible and make it clear that if you want to work for the federal government, you owe your job and your loyalty to one person, Donald J. Trump. So they create DOGE under Elon Musk to make you think that they are saving you money while they tear down the federal government and make it more compatible and loyal to the wishes of Trump. They claim they found about $200 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse. But they wouldn't let Congress, who controls the purse strings, know what they were doing. No one can justify the truth of anything they say. Just to give you a for instance, the New York Times, which has been trying to investigate what Musk was doing, looked at 1,000 contracts that Musk said they have canceled for a savings of $4 billion. And none of those contracts are even in existence. And some of those contracts went out of existence over 20 years ago. They're proposing to eliminate $885 billion of Medicaid and put all of that expense back on the states who have no money to afford it. They can't meet the pay-as-you-go provisions of the budget, which will require $500 billion cut to Medicare, causing increased premiums and causing many hospitals to close, which are heavily dependent upon Medicare and Medicaid patients. Health care for the poorest among us, and they don't give a damn for those people. They are making huge cuts in SNAP benefits, food stamps, cutting off millions of Americans who stand on the edge of hunger every day. They want to do the same thing to education. Less than 10% of our education budget is at the federal level, but they want to eliminate the Department of Education and put all of that expense back on the states. There goes Title I, Title IX, vocational education, many programs in special education. They want us to go back before Brown versus Board of Education, when states like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, Texas, and others declared their education systems separate but equal between black and white students, knowing that was a lie. And now, with no federal oversight, we will be back to the same situation again. All of this chaos, the breaking of federal agencies that serve the people, destroying the VA system in this country, is to make you think they are saving you money. It is all done for the purpose of justifying their $3 trillion tax break for the wealthiest 1% of Americans. Let me give you an example of how this works. Jeff Bezos, from 2014 to 2018, his wealth grew by $99 billion in this country. However, he reported his total income during those 5 years as $4.2 billion, on which he paid $973 million of federal income taxes, less than 1%. He wrote off $95 billion of growth in his wealth and paid not one penny of taxes on that growth. Elon Musk during that same 5-year period, saw in this country $14 billion in wealth growth, but only reported $1.52 billion in income, on which he paid $455 million in taxes, 3.27%. The average middle-income family pays 16.5% to 22.5% taxes, and these people pay 1/10 of that. Tesla, valued at over $1 trillion, the most valuable automaker in the world, paid no federal income taxes last year at all. How does this happen? How do these billionaires and multimillionaires get away with paying no taxes? Because the $2 trillion he borrowed last time and the $3 trillion he'll borrow this time, which is in his budget, he will borrow this time by filling it with tax breaks for the wealthy, accelerated depreciation, exemption of executive stock options, which run into the hundreds of millions for these people, unspecified U.S. tax credits, claims for net operating loss, full expensing of research and development activity, and 100 other write-offs that you and I have never even heard of. The rest of us will get a few crumbs from the table so they can say everybody got a tax break when they know that 90% of it will go to the 2% of the wealthiest people in this country. This ability to avoid taxes and accumulate unbelievable wealth while cutting out hundreds of billions of dollars of services that our people pay for with their taxes and rely upon to sustain their health, their education, their retirements, enables this billionaire class to buy their elected officials and the policies they want. Policies that add further to their riches and leaves the rest of us worse off. That's what you're getting under Donald Trump and the Republicans. And the debt our children and grandchildren will assume for this massive transfer of wealth will keep them in bondage forever. 41 years ago, when I went to the Illinois State Senate and then on to Congress, it was clear to me that large sums of money were buying our politics and our government. I refused the money because I wanted to be free to exercise my conscience and my best judgment. When I see this billionaire class running our politics and our government, today with Trump giving them more and more wealth to enslave us, I believe I was right then, and I will never regret my decision. The lies and the deception will never end with these people. Oh, but he didn't know about Project 2025. But here's just a small list of what he's already done. Ending DEI. Let me tell you one example about DEI. We have at Southern Illinois University a transportation education center which houses a top 5 program in pilot training in aviation technology and mechanics. And it also houses a top 5 in the nation auto mechanics program. When our kids that we recruit to come there, if they be black, if they be Hispanic, if they be white, it doesn't matter. They all take the same test. They all have to perform at the highest level. None of them are exempted from anything. To say that DEI is wrong because black people can't succeed, you know who some of the most highly recruited pilots we have out of our school are black kids. That's right, because they have to get the same training. And he's making you think that when you get on a plane and there's a black pilot, they're not worthy. That's bull. And he knows it. He just wants to divide us, to tear us apart over these issues of race and ethnicity and religion and other things that should not be divisive in America. He's defunded climate science. He's cutting university research funds. mass deportations under secrecy, warrantless surveillance, spying on Americans, trying to bring all election authority under the office of the president, targeting journalists and protesters, severely limiting voting access, and ending all expanded voting access passed by the Biden administration, censoring critical discussions in classrooms about race, gender, and systemic oppression, promoting vouchers to drain resources from public schools, sending taxpayer money to private schools which permit discrimination. There's only one word to describe any university, any newspaper, any law firm which has caved to the despotic threats of Donald Trump, and that is shameful. And you see one party, while looking weak and even confused at times, refusing to desert the truth. One party who understands that if truth is lost, democracy is lost. One cannot survive without the other. If we lose truth, if we lose democracy, we become a nation of lies. A nation that will no longer be that shining city on a hill to the rest of the world. If truth fails, we will be cast into total darkness. And when America fails, there will be no one to lead the world. You are seeing this struggle play out between lies and truth. It is an eternal struggle. The truth flourished under Joe Biden. 16 million new jobs, the most of any first-term president in American history. The lowest unemployment rate in nearly 40 years. Inflation dropping from 9% to 3%. A landmark infrastructure bill, rebuilding America with good union jobs. The CHIPS bill, returning made in America to American manufacturing. Every reputable economist in the world saying that America had the strongest economy in the world under Joe Biden. New respect for our unions, who built the great middle class of America. Repaired relationships with our allies, which Trump nearly destroyed and now tells Putin to attack them at will. If you read the thread of this most recent fiasco in Yemen, in which we broadcast to our enemies every pertinent attack plan prior to the battle, you heard the discussion between J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth as to whether we should really attack the Houthis, because after all, they were attacking our allies shipping in the Red Sea, and why should we defend our allies? That's an actual conversation. Read it. The front line of our defense, NATO, our allies. Their last-minute decision was to talk about why should we defend them. The lies of Trump and his ilk seek to destroy all the progress and the foundational principles of our country. You have heard the lies. 340 million people in this country has heard the lies. They know what the truth is in their hearts, but many, in their thirst for power at any cost, deny the truth, willing to cloak themselves in the destructive games and garments of deceit. The Republican Party heard the lies. They hear the lies. The MAGA cult hears the lies. The Supreme Court hears the lies. The evangelical church hears the lies. The Fox propagandists hear the lies. They all know the truth, but they sell generations into slavery by choosing to believe the lies. Have we forgotten the lady in the harbor? Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to be free. I hold my lamp beside freedom's open door. I am a student of history. I love Greek history. The birth of democracy took place in the little Greek city-state of Athens. In 480 BC, the Persian army under King Xerxes attacked the combined forces of Athens and the Greek city-state of Sparta. The allied forces of Athens and Sparta made a stand against the Persian army, which outnumbered them 300,000 to 7,000 men. They made a stand at a little pass in the mountains only miles from Athens called Thermopylae. They were overwhelmed by such great odds, and by nightfall, only a few men were left to defend the pass and this fledgling experiment in democracy. They knew when the sun rose in the morning, their lives would be sacrificed to defend that pass and to defend democracy. But that night, they chiseled in the rocks above the pass this message for all eternity to remember. Passerby, tell Sparta, we fell faithful to her laws and her service. They gave their lives in defense of democracy. America knows, you know, that there is a price to pay for defending democracy. We have paid it for nearly 250 years. President Kennedy said this is not the time for the sunshine soldier. These are times that require courage, not complacency. Fellow Democrats, these are perilous times. Everything we value, everything we believe in as a nation, as a party, is at stake here. No matter what happens in the future, I want my children and my grandchildren to know that I stood faithful, as we must all stand faithful, to the service and the laws of our beloved country, our beloved democracy, and our beloved party. America demands nothing less. God love you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Congressman. Let us have the Congressman. Safe travels back to Carbondale, and you got a couple of events tonight, I think. Thank you, sir. Real quick.